The gorilla looked back at the palace one last time, then leapt. Over the wall. Over the gates. Down toward the sleeping city and the dark forest beyond. That was the moment the kingdom realized something was terribly wrong. Just yesterday, they had called Cory the gentlest soul in all of Olam, kind, soft-spoken, the one royal who would never harm a fly. Nobody believed danger could ever come from inside the palace walls. But on the night before his crown was placed on his head, something happened that shook the kingdom to its bones. Before dawn, the prince was gone. Servants whispered. Guards searched. And as rumors raced through the streets, that same giant gorilla was seen fleeing into the forest, its amber eyes filled with very human sorrow. What nobody knew was that Cory's own uncle had used dark, forbidden magic to steal the throne, and had cursed the true heir into a beast. Because sometimes the softest heart hides the fiercest power. And sometimes the monster jumping from the city wall is not a monster at all, but the rightful king, escaping a stolen fate. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you love high-stakes stories filled with magic, mystery, and big twists, don't just watch, join the journey. Like the video, share it with someone who loves powerful tales, and hit subscribe, because our next story is extra special, you won't want to miss it. Morning came soft and bright to the kingdom of Olam. The river shone like a long blue cloth. Palm trees moved their hands in the wind. The city on the ridge woke with drums, song, and the smell of hot bread. Sellers carried baskets on their heads. Children ran past dye pits where cloth turned deep indigo. Men beat talking drums. Women laughed as they tied wrappers and arranged beads. Goats shook little bells and trotted after them. Prince Cory walked through the market with no guards. He liked to hear people's stories. He liked to help quietly, like water slipping into dry ground. He was tall and lean, with warm brown skin and kind eyes that had a soft ring of gold around them when the sun touched his face. His hair was cut low and neat. He wore an undyed cream tunic and an indigo sash. When people bowed, he bowed back. "Good morning, Mama Beezy," he said to a bead seller with silver hair. "Good morning, Prince," Mama Beezy answered. "See these beads? They look like drops of the river. For a wife one day, eh?" Cory smiled and shook his head. "For now, they will be gifts," he said, and he bought the beads and gave them to two girls who stood staring with big eyes. At a stall of bread, he paid for loaves and asked the baker to give them to widows who came late. At the cloth stand, he paid the dyer extra for a roll of indigo and told her to cut it into smaller pieces for the poorest families. When he reached the fish seller, he helped lift a heavy basket to her head, and she blessed him. Cory liked simple things like that. He liked to leave a place better than he met it. Not far away, a man watched with narrow eyes. His name was Varco. He was the king's younger brother. His robe was forest green with a dark charcoal underrobe. The green cloth shone like leaf skin. On his right hand he wore a fig leaf signet ring. His lips were thin. His look was sharp and cold. He stood in the shade and spoke to himself. "See how they love him," he said. "They clap for soft hands. But a soft heart cannot rule a hard world." Varco turned and climbed the path toward the palace. On the ridge above the city, the palace lay wide and low, with carved wooden doors and brass studs that caught the sun. Indigo banners hung from beams. Courtyards were cool and clean. A long hall led to the throne, and behind the throne a round sun disk of wood shone with gold paint. The great king rested inside, wrapped in white cloth with an indigo border. He had fallen sick weeks before. Some days he spoke. Some days he slept and breathed like a tired drum. Today he sat on cushions and looked thin, but his eyes were still calm. "Brother," Varco said, bowing. The king nodded. "Sit," he said. "Today is the moon day. Seer Amadi will speak at the shrine. After that, I will make a proclamation." Varco's jaw tightened. He knew what the king wished to say. He had seen how people loved Cory. He had tasted that sweetness and found it bitter. When the drums called, the whole city slowed. Sellers set baskets down. Children climbed onto low walls. Men took off caps. Women gathered shawls around their shoulders. The path to the moon shrine climbed a little hill. White cloths moved in the breeze there, tied to poles. Chalk bowls and calabashes stood in a row. The seers wore bone-white cloth with indigo edges. On their brows they drew lines of chalk. Seer Amati, a slender man with a deep gaze, held a moonstone bowl that caught the light and threw it back like milk. He struck his talking drum once. The sound rolled out like a wave. "People of Olam," Seer Amati said, "open your ears." The wind stilled. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. From his own blood, the seer said, "shall rise betrayal." A murmur moved across the crowd like grass in wind. "Only he who shows strength without slaughter beneath the red moon," the seer said, "and makes the betrayer kneel to a binding mercy, shall restore the crown." Some cried out. Some clutched beads. Seer Amati closed his eyes and lifted the bowl. A pale light moved in it and then went out with a small soft sound, like a candle pinched. The great king stood, leaning on a carved staff. "My people," he said, "do not fear. A strong hand can break. A strong heart can heal. Today I set my house in order." He turned to Kori. "My son," he said, "you are heir. Rule with a heart that saves." Kori bowed and touched the floor with his forehead. "I will try, father," he said. Varko smiled, but the smile did not rise to his eyes. He bowed to the ground and hid his face. No one saw his jaw tighten in the dust. All day people talked. Some were happy. Some were afraid. The drums beat softly as if the air had weight. By evening the sky went the color of palm oil, then purple, then black. No moon showed. It was one of those moonless nights when the world feels hollow. Wind ran through the city, and doors creaked. Varko walked alone to the sacred fig tree behind the palace. Its roots rose like walls. Its leaves shivered without sound. An old ash ring lay at its base, as if fire had stood there many times. Varko set a little bowl on the ground, pricked his finger with a small knife, and let 3 drops fall. He whispered in a thin voice, "Eru, forest spirit of envy. I call. Come." At first there was nothing. Then the ash ring stirred as if something breathed under it. Smoke curled up in thin ropes. The smoke was not gray, it was green, like water under rotting leaves. It smelled like wet wood and old grief. The leaves of the fig tree turned their faces and curled inward. A shape stood in the smoke. It had no face, only the idea of one, as if someone had drawn a head with vines and left the middle empty. Light moved inside it like dark water with green fire. When it spoke, its voice was like a small flame that eats paper. "Varko," it said. "You call. I come." Varko did not bow. He straightened himself. "I want the throne," he said. "I want it now." "Price," Eru said. "Always price." "What price?" Varko asked. He tried to keep his voice steady. "Blood," the spirit said. "Your victory will live chained to mercy's hand. Break it, and I take your soul." Varko's eyes shone. He thought, mercy. Kori has too much of it. That chain will be his fall. He pressed his finger and let more blood fall into the bowl. "I agree," he said. Eru's smoke hands opened like leaves. The spirit hissed, and the green smoke ran along the ground like a snake. It slid up the palace wall. It slipped through a window like a thin line of bad light. Varko followed, careful and quick, his green robe moving like a shadow. Prince Kori lay in his room with the window open. He liked the sound of the wind on nights like this. He kept a reed pen near his pillows and a small cord with a knot that he tied and untied when he prayed. He thought about the prophecy and about his father's face and about how one can be strong without breaking things. He was young, but his mind was old and careful. A whisper went past his ear. A cold breath slid over his hands. Green light crept across the floor and touched his ankles. Corey sat up. His heart jumped. He tried to call for help, but his voice broke like a stick. The green light climbed up his legs like vines. His skin turned dark and thick. His fingers swelled and curled. His bones pushed and moved. Pain took his breath. He reached for the door, but his hands were heavy. He fell and struck the floor. His mouth opened wide, but only a rough sound came out, a broken rumble like a stone rolling in a drum. The green light crawled over his chest and face. His nose widened. His teeth grew strong and square. Hair rushed over his body like a storm of small black birds landing at once. A mark burned on his chest, a tiny golden sigil that shone faint and then dimmed. When the light left him, the room was dark again. On the floor lay a massive silverback gorilla. His eyes were still Corey's eyes, warm, with a quiet ring of amber, but filled with fear and pain. Outside, Varko stood in the corridor with 3 guards he had called. He made his voice big and scared. "Do you hear that?" he cried. "Some beast is in the prince's room." They rushed in and then stopped. The gorilla turned his head. He did not move to hurt them. He was too hurt to think. But the guards only saw fur and size and teeth. They shouted and raised spears. The gorilla flinched and backed into a corner. He lifted his hands to show he had nothing to strike with. He did not want to fight. He did not even know how to be a beast. Varko pointed. "Kill it," he cried. "Protect the prince." The sound of spears scraping on stone made the gorilla cry out. He leapt past the bed. A spear cut the air beside his shoulder. He crashed through a wooden screen and ran. He knocked a lamp from a shelf, and green light, still hiding in the room like a bad dream, kissed the oil. Flames ran up the wall like lizards. Servants screamed. The gorilla thundered down the corridor, heavy hands slapping the floor, breath hot, chest warning, mind white with fear. "Monster," someone shouted. "A demon." In the throne hall, the great king woke and tried to stand. He leaned on his staff. "Corey," he whispered, though no one told him Corey was in danger. A servant tried to help him, but the king pushed the hand away. He walked toward the door with steps like slow drums. The gorilla tore through a doorway and skidded into the open courtyard. Moonless night sat on the city like a heavy cloth. Torches shook as men ran. The gorilla looked up. The sky looked like a high roof with no center. He felt small and lost and lonely, like a child who has dropped a light in a dark room. He ran toward the back gate where the wall was lower. Guards there froze at the sight of him. He did not strike them. He leapt, cut the top of the wall, and pulled himself over. He landed on the outside path and ran down the slope, past small houses, past trees, past the last cooking fires, into the wild. Dogs barked and backed away. A goat bell jingled and then went quiet. From the palace behind him, people called to each other, but no one called his name. In the feast hall, Varko stood on a table and lifted his hands. "A great beast has broken into the palace," he cried. "It took our prince. We must be strong. We must lock the gates, raise the shields, and keep the people safe." The great king reached the hall, sweat on his face. "Where is my son?" he asked. "Gone, father," Varko said softly, eyes wide with fake grief. "A monster came. It took him. We fought it. It flew like smoke." The king stared at him. For a moment the king's eyes looked clear, like deep water. Then his face sagged, and he leaned again on his staff. That night the city did not sleep. Some cried. Some set extra locks. Some prayed at small altars in their courtyards. Some told stories to calm their children. The drums beat slow and sad. On the ridge the palace burned where the green fire had licked the walls. Men carried water in lines and passed it hand to hand. In the forest the new gorilla stumbled through roots and vines. He fell more than once. He tried to speak, but his tongue did not know words. He tried to cry like a man and found a deep voice he did not know. It shook the leaves and made birds fly. He did not want to scare anyone, but his body did not know how not to be big. He hid under a fallen tree at last, shaking. He curled his arms around himself and rocked. A small owl sat on a branch above him, turning its head and watching with bright, simple eyes. Corey looked up and whispered inside his mind, "Help me." But the forest has rules. It listens in its own way. At the sacred fig tree, Eru's smoke body thinned and drew back into the ash ring. The leaves uncurled like fingers. A green glow stayed around the roots, like a thought that would not leave. Varco came to the tree again before dawn. He stood with his hands behind his back and breathed fast. He had told the people what to think. He had told the guards to shut the gates. He had sent riders to all corners of the city to say, "Beware the wild. Beware the beast." He smiled and let the smile grow. He thought of the throne, of the gold sun disk behind it, of the power to speak and have his words run like goats in every street. "You have your price," he said to the ash ring. "Take it and be gone." Eru's voice rose from the dirt like the first steam of a cooking pot. "We have begun," the spirit said. "Not ended. Your victory lives chained to mercy's hand. Break the chain, Varco, and I take your soul." Varco hissed through his teeth, but no word came. He turned, gathered his green robe, and went back to the palace. Morning found the city gray and quiet. Smoke from the burned walls drifted over the ridge. The river looked dull, like a tired eye. People waited for news. It came when the gate drum sounded 3 times. The great king was too weak to speak to the crowd, so Varco stood in the gate shade below the brass studs and raised his hands. "People of Olam," he called, "a dark night has passed. A beast from the forest took our prince. We do not know if he lives. But we will not fall. We will stand. Until the gods show us a sign, I will keep the throne for the safety of this land." Some nodded because they wanted someone to lead. Some nodded because they were afraid. Some did not nod at all. They looked at the ground and thought about how hearts can twist and smile at the same time. Prince Corey, far in the forest, woke to bird cries. His body ached. His hands felt strange but strong. He saw dew hanging from a leaf like a clear bead, and he wondered how such small things could hold the world together. He stood slowly and tried to breathe without fear. He heard the river's voice, soft and old. He followed it until he reached a bend where water curled around a sandbar and trees leaned down as if to drink. He stepped into the shallow and felt the cool over his feet. He looked at his reflection and wanted to look away. A great gorilla stared up at him. The eyes were his. The rest was not. He touched the water with one finger and watched circles spread out like stories moving into other stories. He made a sound that was almost a sob, then stopped and lifted his head. A far, thin voice came on the wind. It was Siramati's drum speaking, beating the same pattern again and again, as if to nail something to the sky. "Do not break. Do not break. Do not break." Corey pressed his hands to his chest. He felt a small shape there, the carved pendant on his mercy knot cord. He did not remember how it had stayed through the change, but it had. He held it. It warmed under his palm. "Father," he said, and the word came out like a rough hum. He tried again. "Father." It still sounded wrong, but the meaning inside it was right. He was alone and not alone. The forest watched him. The river watched him. The sky listened. Behind him, leaves moved. A line of ants walked across a log. A small brown lizard ran, stopped, and raised its head. Life went on, even when it hurt. Corey wiped his face with the back of his hand and took one step, then another, into his new world. By afternoon he had learned 3 things. First, his chest beat could speak. When he beat slowly, elephants far away answered with soft rumbles that made the ground hum. When he beat fast, parrots rose with cries and followed him like colorful leaves in a storm. Second, his hands could pull big branches, but they could also pick small herbs without crushing them. Third, hunger felt different when you were a beast. He ate berries with patience and washed them in the stream. He did not want to harm what he did not need to harm. As the sun slid down, he found a fallen fig tree where the trunk made a safe hollow. He gathered dry leaves to make a bed. He was very tired. He lay down and watched the sky through a broken place in the leaves. One star came, then another, then 10, then more. He told himself a small story like a child. You are Cory. You are still you. You will find a way. In the palace, the great king slept and dreamed he was a boy again, walking by the river, and a voice from the water said, "Hold fast." Varco sat in the throne hall in the last light. The gold sun disk behind him looked dull. He rubbed his signet with his thumb. He thought about the seer's words. He thought about the chain of mercy. He thought about how chains can be broken if you find the right stone. In the moonless sky, a thin red cloud rose like a wound. Somewhere in the swamp, fireflies made small lights and turned them off again and on again, like tiny drums, waiting for a larger beat to answer. And far in the forest, the gorilla who was still a prince fell into a strange sleep. He dreamed a woman's voice calling from a place of trees and bells, and he did not know yet that her name was Nemaya, and that she would teach him how mercy can be strong. Morning came with thin mist that looked like river breath. The forest was quiet at first, like it was thinking. Then sounds rose one by one. A tiny frog ticked like a clock. A parrot gave a sleepy squawk. Somewhere far, an elephant mother rumbled to her calf the way a mother pats a baby, soft, steady, sure. Cory woke inside the hollow of the fallen fig tree. He stretched his heavy arms and felt the ache of new muscles. His charcoal black fur kept the chill away. When he reached to scratch his shoulder, he touched the small cracked bronze shard tied at his waist. He had tied it there without knowing why. It felt like a little piece of home. The leather mercy knot cord lay warm against his chest, and beneath it a faint golden sigil glowed softly like a memory that would not go out. He walked to the river bend and bowed his head. "River," he said in his rough new voice, "I am Cory. I am lost." The river kept moving. Water never stops to think about what it is. It just is. It took the soft morning light, broke it into 1,000 bright pieces, and handed it back to him on ripples. Cory cupped water in his big hands and drank. When he looked up, a small monkey sat on a branch above him with a nut between its fingers. It eyed him with worry. Cory looked away and moved slowly so he would not scare it. He learned another rule: in the forest, eyes tell you if you are safe. He made his eyes calm. He tried to practice speaking. "Ko-Ri," he said. "Ko-Ri." The word came out like stones, but stones can still build a house. He said, "Fa, there." It came out like wind pushing through a broken flute. He said, "Home." It sounded like a drum hit with a soft hand. Suddenly birds burst from a tree and swarmed above the water. Leaves shook. There was a quick flash of spots, a leopard, low and smooth, moving fast along the bank. It saw Cory and slid into shadow. Its yellow eyes glowed like two small moons. Cory's heart knocked his ribs. He did not want to fight. He lifted his hands, palms out, to show he had nothing. He kept his eyes calm. The leopard watched him for a long, thin moment and then vanished in green. Cory let out the breath he had been holding. He walked the forest paths all day. He learned which leaves cut the skin if you brushed them wrong, and which leaves felt like soft cloth. He found wild berries hiding like beads under wide leaves. He picked each one with care and washed them in a pool. His hands were huge, but he could still be gentle. When he ate, he closed his eyes so the taste could speak louder. The taste said, "You are alive." At noon he heard a sound like drums crossed with thunder. He followed it and came to a clearing where a family of elephants moved together. White clay swirls curved on the temples of the biggest one. She was the matriarch. Her ears flapped slowly as she watched him. The little ones played at her feet, bumping each other and blowing dust. Cory stepped into the clearing and knelt to make himself smaller. He beat his chest once, slow, boom, and looked down. The matriarch rumbled back, a deep soft note that moved through the earth into his hands. He felt it in his bones. It said, "We see you. Do not frighten the calves." Corey lowered his head again and backed away. He did not turn his back, but he did not stare. The matriarch gave another rumble, and the family moved on like a slow river of gray. By evening Corey felt a little more sure. He walked with his back straighter. He found a place where wild figs fell thick on the ground. As he ate, he heard one more sound, a thin cry like a new goat. He looked around and found a young elephant calf caught behind a fallen branch. The calf's foot had slipped in a hole, and the branch had trapped it across the body. The calf trembled. Its eyes were wide. Corey went down on his hands and knees. He put one finger to his lips the way men do with children. "Hush," he rumbled. He slipped his hands under the branch, lifted slow, and nudged the calf back. The calf wobbled, then stood. It put its trunk against his arm as if to say thank you. Corey laughed, a warm, rough sound that made the leaves move. The calf trumpeted once, a tiny trumpet, and ran off toward the path the herd had taken. It turned once to look at him and wiggled its trunk like a friend saying see you. That night Corey slept with a better heart. He dreamed of home, but the dream was not sharp and painful like before. It was soft and a little kind. Days passed. Corey learned to listen with more than his ears. The ground told him where animals had moved by the way the leaves lay. The wind told him when rain would come by the smell of it. The trees told him where the sun was by the way their shadows bent. He practiced his chest beat language. Boom for hello. Boom, boom for wait. A fast 3 beats for danger. Birds learned his signs. Parrots repeated them with color. He tried to stay away from the fig grove behind the palace ridge. The thought of it made his stomach turn cold. But the forest has a way of bringing you to the very place you do not wish to see. One late afternoon, Corey followed a track of broken ferns and came to a quiet glade. There, under a tree, lay a leopard with its side torn. A trap had caught it, a hunter's spear had grazed it, now it panted, eyes dim. When Corey stepped forward, the leopard bared its teeth with a weak hiss. It tried to stand, fell back, and stared. Corey remembered his father's words, "A strong heart can heal." He tore strips from a bark cloth he had been carrying to sleep on. He soaked them in clean water and pressed them to the wound. The leopard did not strike. It was too weak. Corey cleaned the wound, wrapped it, and left a small pile of berries and a gourd of water nearby. He stepped back and made his eyes calm. The leopard's eyes blinked once, slow. It breathed easier. "Live," Corey said softly, though the word came out like 2 stones dragged together. He turned and went away. That night rain fell. It drummed on leaves. It washed the dust off every blade of grass. It made everything smell new and possible. Corey slept in a dry hollow and felt good that he had helped something live. At dawn he walked back to the clearing to check the leopard. The animal was gone. The ground was bent with the shape of its body, and the leaves where it had lain were dark. He smiled. Then he heard a small sound that cut him like a knife. It was a tiny, lost trumpeting. Corey ran. He pushed through a screen of shrubs and burst out into a narrow gully. There lay the elephant calf he had freed days ago. It lay twisted. Its legs were wrong. Blood dotted the ground, in a small amount, but enough to tell a story. A single paw print in mud showed where a big cat had stood. Spots were brushed on leaves where a body had moved close. Corey did not need words. He knew. The leopard he had saved had killed the calf. He knelt. The calf's eyes were open but did not see. Corey touched the small head and let his hand rest there. A sound rose from inside him, a sound like a drum tearing. He could not stop it. He beat his chest hard and then harder, and the whole glade shook. Birds exploded from all the trees. Far away, the elephant matriarch screamed, a sound like a hill breaking. Corey stood. He wanted to find the leopard and tear it to pieces. He wanted to pull trees up by the roots and throw them at the sky. He wanted to break the world until the pain went away. He took one step and then stopped. The river of his mind, which had been roaring, found a rock and slowed. The rock was a memory, the memory of pressing wet bark to a wound, of setting food beside another life. He had wanted to do good. But good without wisdom can hurt. He looked down at the calf. "I am sorry," he said, the words breaking. "I did not know." The forest went quiet. Even the insects paused. Corey dug a small pit with his hands and lined it with leaves because he had no shovel and no time to find one. He lifted the calf and laid it there. He did not cover the little body right away. He waited until the matriarch came, moving like grief-given legs. Her trunk touched the calf, moved to Corey's chest, and rested against the golden sigil under his pendant. She did not crush him. She did not strike him. She did not forgive him either. She stood with him for a long time without words. That was the hardest part, to stand and feel the weight of what he had done. When she finally moved, Corey covered the little body with leaves and earth and stones. He set a smooth river rock on top and pressed his forehead to it. Then he went away, walking with his shoulders low. He did not go far. He sat by the river and watched a brown leaf turn in the current. He spoke to the air. "Father," he said, "I think I broke something." He waited for the wind to answer. The wind did not speak. But the chest-beat answer came from far away, dum, 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 the slow call of Sierra Madi's drum from the city. The pattern was the same as before, do not break. He let the sound stitch him a little. That evening, as the light turned soft, Corey heard another sound. It was not an animal. It was not a drum. It was a human cry, a short, sharp yelp cut off in the middle. He leapt to his feet and ran. He found a small clearing with a hanging net between two trees. In the net a young woman twisted. The rope cut her arms. A gag was tied at her mouth. Two poachers crouched nearby with knives. They had a little fire and a bag with animal skins. One spat into the dust and laughed. Corey stepped from the trees. The poachers looked up and froze. One dropped his knife. The other reached for a spear but did not lift it. Corey spread his arms wide and beat his chest once, boom, so the net shook and dust jumped. The men fell to their knees and covered their heads. He ripped the net with one hand and caught the woman before she fell. He cut the gag with his claw and set her gently on her feet. She gasped and stared into his face. Her eyes were dark and steady. She wore earth-brown cloth and a thin braided belt with small cowries. Her hair was in long braids with seeds tied near the ends. A light bark-etched staff lay on the ground where it had fallen when the poachers grabbed her. She took a shaking breath. "Thank you," she said in a clear voice. "I am Nehemiah." She looked closer at his eyes, the ring of amber, the hurt deep inside. She did not run. Corey lowered his head to show he meant no harm. He pointed to the poachers. They trembled. He did not want to kill them. But his muscles burned for an answer to the pain in his chest. Nehemiah picked up her staff. She planted it in the ground. A small hum moved through the clearing, like a string pulled tight and plucked. The poachers stared at the staff and then at her. "Listen," she said to them. "You will live. But you will work. You will cut reeds in the swamp for the widow roof pools, under guard, until your debt is paid. If you run, the forest will not hide you." The men nodded fast. Corey's breath slowed a little. Mercy with duty. He rolled the words in his mind. Nehemiah turned to Corey. "I know your sorrow," she said. "Last night, I dreamed a dream. In it, a prince wore a gorilla's body, and his heart glowed gold. A smoke spirit coiled around a fig tree and drank greed. His name in the dream was Corey. Is that your name?" Corey touched his chest and tried to shape the sound. "Ko-re." He pointed to himself, then to her. "N-I-ma-ya." She smiled. "Yes." She raised a hand and did not touch him, only let it hover near his fur, the way you do to show you are near but you will not harm. "Come," she said. "Let us leave this place." They walked to the river bend. Nemaya washed the rope cuts on her arms with clean water and crushed a leaf with a smell like pepper to press on them. She tied fresh fiber around the cuts with neat fingers. Corey sat on a rock and watched her. "You helped me," she said. "Let me help you. Sit still. Breathe with me. In and out." She took a deep breath and let it go. Corey followed. His big chest lifted and fell. The river matched them. "Now," she said. "Tell me what happened, but if your mouth cannot, let your hands tell it." So Corey told the story with his body. He showed how he lay in his room and the green smoke crept in. He showed how his hands changed and his voice broke. He showed how he ran and how torches shook and how fear took him like a thief takes a basket. He showed how he met the leopard and bound its wound, and how he found the calf dead. He went quiet then and pressed his knuckles to his eyes. Nemaya put her hand on the rock between them and let her fingers rest there as if to say, "I am here." When he finished, she nodded. "I saw this in part," she said. "The dream told me some, and the forest told me more. The spirit that did this is called Eru. It is envy given smoke. It eats what others have. It loves green light and ash. It coils around the old fig tree. And there is a law tied to what it did to you." She lifted her staff and drew a knot in the wet sand, 2 loops crossing, then locking. "This is the binding of paths," she said. "It shows truth. It allows choice. No one is forced to bend, but light falls on the lie like morning on dew." She drew a small moon with a mark on its side. "And this is the red moon. When the sky hangs that color again, your curse will harden like dry clay unless the one who betrayed you kneels freely to the mercy you set." Corey leaned forward. His eyes were wide. He touched the knot with a finger and then the moon, as a child touches a teacher's board. "Say the law with me," Nemaya said. Slow and plain. Corey tried. Nemaya spoke first, clear, "Strength without slaughter beneath the red moon, and the betrayer kneels freely to a binding mercy." Corey rumbled each piece, "Strength, without, slaughter." His throat felt thick but the words came. "Beneath, the red moon, and the betrayer kneels freely to a binding mercy." When they finished, Nemaya smiled. "Good. Keep that law inside like a fire you feed." Corey looked at his hands. They were huge. They could break a tree. He thought about strength without slaughter. It sounded difficult, like holding water without a pot. But sometimes your hands can be the pot. A parrot landed on a low branch above them and tipped its head. It gave a loud, rude squawk and said, in a voice like a market woman, "And no break." "No break." Nemaya laughed. Corey gave a soft chest beat. The parrot squawked again and flew off, leaving a bright feather that fell into Nemaya's lap. She tucked the feather into her belt. They made a small camp by the river for the night. Nemaya showed Corey how to make a smoke bundle from dried leaves that kept biting insects away. She showed him where to find sweet water grass to chew when you are thirsty. She told him pieces of songs that women sing when they plant yam. "Small hands plant today. Big hands harvest tomorrow." Corey listened. When he looked at her face in the firelight, he saw it was calm, even though the day had been hard. He wanted a calm heart too. He told himself to breathe the way she did, in, out, slow, steady. At the deep middle of the night, Nemaya sat up. Her eyes were open but far away. She touched the ground, then the air, then her own forehead. Corey watched. He felt the world lean. It was like a door opening without sound. When Nemaya spoke, her voice was not just hers. It had the hush of leaves and the low hum of river stone. "Corey," she said, "hear the dream path." He answered. "I see a palace gate," she said. "I see you stand there, still in gorilla form. Your hand is raised. Your anger is big. Your tears are bigger. The crowd is hot. Your uncle shakes and lies with his face to the ground. A snake of smoke curls from the carved wood. It whispers, blood for blood. But you do not strike. You say, kneel, not to me, to the work of mending what you broke. When he kneels, gold light breaks your chain. Corey swallowed. Kneel, he said, testing the shape of the word. Yes, Nehemiah said. You give him work, not death. You give him a hayas of service, a promise with weight. If he breaks it, the forest itself will come for him. Corey touched his bark cord wrist wrap. He did not remember tying it there, but now he saw it clearly. It felt like something she had given him in a dream before they met. Nehemiah's eyes cleared. She leaned back, tired. The red moon is coming soon, she said. We have to move. We need allies. Corey nodded. He looked at the trees, the river, the sky. He thought of the matriarch's slow grief. He thought of the city where the market had laughed. He thought of his father, thin and kind in white cloth. His heart tightened and then loosened, the way a drum's skin is pulled and then tuned. He stood. Tomorrow, he said. The word came out much cleaner. We gather. Dawn came soft and gray. Nehemiah led Corey to paths only a few knew, hunter lanes, herbways, water trails. She walked sure-footed. She tapped her staff once before each bend. Sometimes she stopped and listened, not with her ears, but with something inside. Then she would change direction by one step, and they would avoid a thorn or a hole. They came to a clearing where freed workers hid. Men and women who had run from the palace granaries when taxes had grown like weeds. Old people with brown hands like dry leaves. Young men with eyes like shut doors. Children with good legs but tired faces. Nehemiah lifted her hand. Do not fear, she said. This is Corey. The people stared. A few grabbed sticks. A boy hid behind a woman's wrapper. Corey sank to one knee and lowered his head. Then he beat his chest, boom. Wait, boom, the sign he had made for I bring peace. The sound rolled like a soft drum across the clearing. A man with a scar on his cheek stepped out. If this is peace, he said, it wears a big suit. Nehemiah smiled a little. He was a prince, she said. Now he wears a gorilla. The spirit Eru put it on him. But he is still Corey inside. The scarred man looked into Corey's eyes. The amber ring there caught the light. He saw not a beast but a person who had swallowed fire and was still trying to sing. Name, the man asked. Corey, Corey said, strong this time. The man nodded. I am Tanu, he said. I work the flood road. My hands remember how to build walls that stand. Corey held out his big hand, palm open. Tanu put his smaller hand against it. Corey felt the rough calluses. He felt the weight of hunger in the man's bones too. He pointed to the baskets the group had by the fire, only a few roots, a small gourd of porridge, a strip of dried fish. Corey looked at Nehemiah. He moved his mouth like a child learning a new sound. Bread, he said. Not enough, Tanu answered. Then we share, Corey said. They ate together. Corey took only a little. He found more berries and brought them. The children followed him with cautious steps. He made a small game where he hid a berry under one leaf and had them guess which leaf. When they laughed, his heart lifted like a kite. By afternoon, talking drums woke across the trees. Nehemiah had sent out cord messengers, young runners with mercy knot cords to show they came with peace. Drums answered from far villages with the pattern Corey learned, dum, dum, hold, dum, dum, come. Hunters from the forest threshold arrived first with nets and knowledge of paths. Then the dye mistress came from the market with her hands still stained indigo. She carried a basket of old wrappers for bandages. A drum master with chalked brows came with a small drum under his arm. He touched the head of the drum and whispered to it like it was a child, wake. Work. Corey stood on a stump so all could see him. He did not raise his voice high. He used simple words. I was soft in a way that hurt, he said. I spared a leopard, and a calf died. I will not make that soft mistake again. We must be strong. But we will not break. We will hold. We will surround. We will bind. We will make those who hurt us mend what they broke. He pointed to Tanu. You know roads, he said. Teach us how to hold a line without spears. Tanu nodded. He drew in the dirt with a stick, U-shaped to catch, circle to hold, not to bind. He pointed to the hunters. You know nets, Corey said. Teach us how to drop without choking. The hunters showed knots that close but do not crush, ropes that burn enough to warn but do not cut. He pointed to the drum master. You know sound, Corey said. Teach us how to speak with drums so hands can be free. The drum master struck patterns: come, stop, lift, kneel, bind, release. He made them simple and strong. Children learned them first and laughed when they beat release too many times. Nemaya moved through the crowd with her staff. She tied mercy knot cords on wrists. This is our promise, she said. Strong hands, soft hearts, clear heads. As the sun slid down, a small group of palace guards came out of the forest with hands raised. Their faces were tired. Their clothes were torn. We left the palace, one said. We would not strike our own neighbors anymore. We heard the drums. We followed them. Corey looked at them and saw fear and hope mixed like oil and water that had not fully come apart. He nodded. You will work with us, he said. No spears. Use your feet and your rope. They trained until the light was thin. They practiced surrounding a big tree without touching it, then binding a sack of stones, then kneeling together and standing as one. It looked like a dance when they did it right. It looked like a mess when they did it wrong. Both times, people laughed, and the laughter did not bite, it warmed. When darkness came, they lit small fires. The Dye Mistress hummed a weaving song. Tanu told a funny story about a goat that learned to open the grain door and ended up trapped inside, too full to move. Even Corey made a noise that was almost a chuckle. Nemaya put her hand on his arm. You carry a heavy drum, she said. But listen, the others are playing with you now. Corey looked around at the faces in the firelight, lined, smooth, dark, old, young. He felt the weight in his chest shift. It was still heavy, but it sat better. Later, alone at the edge of the camp, he looked up. A thin red stain had started to show in the night sky. It spread slow, like dye in water. He thought of the law, strength without slaughter beneath the red moon, and the betrayer kneels freely to a binding mercy. He said it out loud, and the words came like proper steps on a known road. Strength without slaughter, he said. The betrayer kneels freely, he said. Binding mercy, he said, and he touched the knot on his cord. Behind him, Nemaya stood quietly, watching the same sky. She spoke without turning. When the moon is full and red, we will stand at the gate, she said. Eru will hiss. Varko will shake. The people will shout. Your hands will burn to strike. That is the moment that makes a king. Corey closed his eyes. He pictured Varko's face. He pictured the matriarch's slow grief. He pictured his father's calm eyes. He opened his hands and let his fingers spread. I will not break, he said. A soft step sounded behind him. The parrot from before landed on his shoulder and nipped his ear without harm. It squawked, "No break." Then it hopped to Nemaya's staff and tilted its head like a small priest. Nemaya laughed and scratched its neck. The bird puffed up with pride and looked at Corey as if to say, I am on your side. Far away, in the palace, Varko stood in the throne hall in the dark. He touched the fig leaf signet on his right index finger. He thought of the prophecy. He thought of the chain. He thought of how chains look strong but can be melted if a hot enough fire is found. He lit a lamp and held the flame near a green stone he wore under his robe. The stone drank the light and gave it back as a thin smoke. He breathed it in and smiled. On the city walls, Seer Amadi walked slowly with his drum. He beat the same soft pattern over and over, dum, dum, hold, until the night learned it and set it back. In the clearing by the river, Corey lay down on his bed of leaves. The parrot tucked its head under its wing on a branch above. Nehemiah rolled in her shawl and placed her staff across her knees. The freed workers and hunters and children slept in little groups like beads on a string. Corey's last thought before sleep was simple. We will mend what was broken. Morning would come again. More people would answer the drums. The march would begin. And when the red moon rose high, they would stand before the palace gate, not with joy for breaking, but with mercy strong enough to bend a king. Morning light slipped through the trees like thin gold threads. Smoke from small cooking fires rose in straight lines. The camp beside the river woke with whispers first, then low talk, then bright voices as the children ran between sleeping mats. Corey sat up slowly. His big hands brushed leaves from his fur. He listened. The forest made many sounds, but today there was a new one, soft feet coming on many paths, careful feet, hopeful feet. People were answering the drums. Nehemiah stood and tied her braids back with a simple cord. She lifted her bark-etched staff and tapped it twice on a flat stone. "Wake well," she said. "Eat something. Then we work." Tanu, the man with the road builder's hands, came with a small pot of yam porridge. "Not much, but it is warm," he said. He handed bowls to the old and the young first. Corey took only a small scoop. Nehemiah added wild leaves in each bowl for green strength. On the river stone, Seer Ahmadi's drum pattern arrived like a walking friend. Dum, dum, hold, dum, dum, come. The sound was not loud, but it was steady. It held the camp together like a thread holds beads. Soon, groups stepped out from the trees. A pair of sisters with baskets of smoked fish. A man with a broken spear and a strong back. 2 dye workers with stained hands and rolls of old cloth for bandages. A midwife with calm eyes. 3 hunters with nets and ropes. A potter with clay still under his nails. Even a small group of palace guards with their spears cut in half, to show they had left the old orders. They all looked first at Nehemiah, then at Corey. Corey stepped forward. He did not shout. He spoke simple and clear. "Welcome," he said. "My name is Corey. I wear a gorilla's body, but I am still a man. The spirit called Eru did this. It works with envy and lies. It curls around the sacred fig behind the palace. It gave my uncle Varko a path to the throne. But there is a law stronger than envy." He lifted his hand and touched the leather mercy knot at his chest. "Listen," he said, and he spoke the rule like a drum pattern, strength without slaughter beneath the red moon, and the betrayer kneels freely to a binding mercy. He made them say it back. First the adults. Then the children. Even the parrot on the branch shouted, "And no slaughter. Kneel." People laughed, and the fear in their faces softened a little. Nehemiah drew the mercy knot in the sand with her staff. "We will practice this knot in our hands and in our feet," she said. Knot means tie, but it also means promise. Today our promise is strong hands, soft hearts, clear heads. She divided the camp into groups. Group 1 stood with Tanu by a tall tree. He drew shapes in the dirt with a stick. "This is the U shape," he said, drawing a curved line with 2 arms that bent toward each other. "When someone runs wild, we do not spear him. We bend around him like a river bends around a stone. We let his run slow, then stop, then we hold." He made 5 people stand in a U and told a 6th to run at them. The runner met the curve, turned, and slowed. The line closed, not with fists, but with arms that guided and feet that blocked. "This is the circle," Tanu said next, drawing a ring. "The circle holds without hurting. It is a fence made of bodies." They tried it with a child in the middle, then with a strong man, then with 2 runners at once. It was messy, then smoother, then almost like a dance. Group 2 went to the hunters. The hunters were quiet and patient. They showed ropes that tighten then stop at the right point, and nets that drop soft and spread wide. "The rope is a tongue," one hunter said. "It speaks if your hands do not panic." He looped a rope over a post and pulled. It held firm but did not cut. He did the same around Corey's wrist to prove it. Corey pulled. The rope bit then stopped. The hunter said, "See. It says, stay, not die." Group 3 sat with the die mistress and the midwife. "We make a healing corner," the midwife said. "After we bind, we care." They laid out clean cloth strips, crushed green leaves for paste, boiled water in a clay pot to wash small cuts, set flat stones for splints. The die mistress marked the stone edge with indigo, a line for water, a circle for clean, a cross for pain. "Even a child can read this," she said. Group 4 stood with the drum master. He drew 5 symbols in the dirt with chalk, a dot for come, a short line for stop, a long line for hold, a hook for kneel, and a knot for bind. He beat them in order, slow first, then faster. Children ran the patterns like a game, moving where the drum told them. Soon everyone could follow with their feet without looking down. Corey moved between groups. He learned by doing. He let people place ropes around his arms so they would not fear his size. He let 3 guards try to push him and showed them how he could step and turn so they fell on their backs without a single hit. He laughed with them when they stood up dusty. He made the children clap when someone did a movement right. By midday, the camp was hot. The sun pressed through the leaves. People's faces shone with sweat. Nehemiah raised her staff and called a stop. She gave out roasted roots. The potter brought a water jar he had shaped and burned in a village kiln 3 days ago. "Drink," he said. "We must keep our heads cool so our hands can hold." While they ate, 2 boys ran in from the west path, out of breath. "The grain store at Riverbend Ward," one cried. "A taxman is taking sacks. The old woman there is crying." The guards beat her hand when she tried to lift one small bag. Corey looked at Nehemiah. Nehemiah's eyes met his. She nodded. "This is our first test," she said. "We will not break. We will not shout useless words. We will not burn. We will take back what belongs to the people and leave the place better." Tanu stood. "We need 20, he said. 10 to hold, 10 to lift and carry." The drum master beat come, hold, kneel, bind. The pattern fell into bodies like rain falls into soil. People stood and formed lines without pushing. They moved along a narrow forest path, then onto a road packed hard by many feet. As they walked, more joined. A woman with a baby tied on her back. A boy with a basket of pebbles, his job was to give small stones to mark turns. A man with a long reed to measure the road for repairs later. People were not just angry, they were ready to mend. By the time they reached Riverbend Ward, a small crowd already stood by the store. The store was a clay building with a wooden door and a counting board on a flat rock. A man in a rich wrapper stood there, his jaw high. 2 palace guards with full spears stood by him. A tiny old woman with a scarf like a cloud tugged at a sack and cried. Corey stopped the group at the corner and lifted one hand. The drum master beat stop. The sound caught the crowd like a hand on a running child's shoulder. Corey walked forward alone, slow, large, but not rushing, not angry. He held both palms open. The taxman saw him and tried to smile like a man who is brave. It looked thin. He looked at the guards. They gripped their spears tighter. They had not cut their weapons yet. "Who are you?" the taxman said, trying to make his voice strong. "Corey," Corey said. The word carried like a low drum. "A beast cannot have a name," the taxman said, but his eyes moved. He had heard stories already. He licked his lips. Corey pointed to the old woman, then to the sacks. "Whose?" he asked. "Mine," the old woman said. "We put little handfuls all year. 4 hungry days. 4 babies." The taxman snapped his fingers. "By order of Lord Varco, extra levy," he said. "The palace needs grain." Corey turned his head and looked at the counting board. He saw rows of lines in groups of 5. He counted with his finger. He looked at the sacks. He raised 2 fingers and pointed at the sacks. 2, he said. "Palace takes 2. Village keeps 8. The taxman laughed but looked at the guards again. Corey stepped and stood between the old woman and the guards, not close, but firm. He beat his chest, "Hold," and the drum master answered with the same word. The group behind Corey moved. Tanu and 10 others formed a U-shape around the door. 5 went to the old woman and lifted the sack from her hands gently. 5 spread to stop pushing from the crowd. The hunters dropped a soft net over the pile of sacks to stop quick grab and run. The net did not crush. It just held. "Thief!" the taxman shouted. Nehemiah walked up. She planted her staff and spoke low. "No one steals," she said. "We count. We leave a note. We take back what the village paid twice. And we leave the store in better order than we found it. That is our promise." "By whose order?" the men cried. Nehemiah pointed at the crowd. "By the order of hunger and fairness," she said. "And by the law of the gods who hate scales that lie." The 2 guards lifted their spears. Corey saw their hands. He saw the shake in their fingers. He did not want them to break their own hearts with one bad move. He stepped close, put his big hand under a spear head, and lifted it slowly, eyes on the guard, not the weapon. "Kneel," he said. The drum master beat kneel. The guard looked at Corey's eyes and then at the crowd. He went to one knee. The other guard followed, uncertain, then sure. It was as if a knot in the air had loosened. Nehemiah took out a little board and chalk. She wrote, 2 sacks taken as unfair levy returned to Riverbend Ward by Mercy Not Assembly. Weight checked. Seal redone. Count fair. She handed the board to the taxman. "Sign," she said. He stared at her. She waited. Finally, his hand moved. He drew his name like a shy worm. Nehemiah stamped the board with a knot mark and hung it by a thread from the store pole. "Now everyone can see," she said. Tanu and the builders resealed the door seam with clay and pressed a new seal mark, a small sun inside a knot. The dye mistress brushed the new seal with a touch of red so it would be seen from far away and not broken by accident. Corey picked up one sack. It looked small in his arms. He put it into the old woman's hands with care, like giving a baby back to its mother. The old woman cried again, but now the tears were different. She touched Corey's golden chest sigil with 2 fingers and whispered, "Blessings." The crowd began to clap, first softly, then strong. Some people laughed. Some hugged. Some just stood very still, as if a hard hand in their chest had let go. The taxman tried to slip away. Nehemiah stopped him with a look. "You will carry water to the widow pools today," she said. 10 jars. It is not a punishment. It is a hayas, a service that cleans your name. She looked at the guards. "You 2 will help rebuild the store roof after rain broke it last season. Come tomorrow with your hands ready." They nodded, grateful it was work, not shame. As the Mercy Not group left, the drum master beat release. The pattern bounced off the walls and ran ahead of them down the street like a little goat running home. They returned to camp with food for children and new people who were ready to help. The freed workers had brought poles. The potter had fired 2 more jars. The hunters had woven 3 fresh nets from vine. The camp felt like a small village now, with purpose. In the afternoon they practiced again, but this time with distraction. Nehemiah threw bits of cloth into the air while they moved, to teach them not to look away. Tanu shouted numbers to change the shape of the U without breaking the line. The drum master switched patterns fast to make their feet learn without thinking. People stumbled, laughed, got up, tried again. Corey fell once when he turned too fast. The ground shook. He laughed at himself, and the whole camp laughed too. It felt good. A boy named Sola came to Corey with a problem. He held a small sling and a stone. "I want to fight," he said. "I am fast." Corey squatted so his eyes were level with the boy's eyes. "How many stones do you have?" Corey asked. Sola opened his hand. 1. Corey opened his hand. It was empty. I have none, he said. But I can still hold a line. Can you hold a line? Sola looked at the people practicing. He looked back at Cory. I think so, he said. Cory smiled. Then you are strong, he said. Stand there with Tanu. Today you learn to turn and block. Tomorrow you teach someone smaller than you. Sola nodded and ran to the line, sling forgotten in his belt. Later, a woman with a sharp voice came with a question. What if they hit us? She asked. What if they strike first? Do we still hold? Cory looked at his hands. He spoke slowly. Hold does not mean do nothing, he said. Hold means do no useless harm. If they strike, we cover, we turn, we bind, we kneel them. We do not let them break us. We do not let them break others. We do not let ourselves break. Nehemiah added, mercy is not weakness. Mercy has a strong back and good shoes. People nodded. They liked the picture of Mercy wearing shoes. As the sun went down, Cory and Nehemiah climbed a small hill to look toward the city. The palace ridge stood dark against the sky. A thin red line hung low like the edge of a wound. The red moon would come soon. Varco will not sit quietly, Nehemiah said. He will send men to scare us. He will burn small farms to make the villages blame us. He will promise gifts. He will whisper lies. Cory's jaw tightened. Then we speak loud and clear, he said. We fix what we touch. We feed who is hungry. We return what we take. We leave marks that even a child can read. Nehemiah nodded. We leave not seals and count boards and clean doors, she said. We leave road stones neatly set. We leave songs that teach the beat. People will know who we are by the mending we leave behind. Cory thought of the little elephant calf and of how he had failed it. We will not make soft mistakes, he said. Night came. They lit small fires again. The drum master played a story on his drum while the dye mistress sang words between the beats. It told of a fisherman who fell into the river and learned to breathe like a fish until he found the shore. Everyone listened, even the parrot, who bobbed its head and tried to copy the last beat. In the middle of the story, 3 men in cloaks stood at the edge of the firelight. They did not clap. Their faces were hard. Their hands hid under their cloth. Nehemiah raised her staff. Come in where we can see you, she said. The men stepped into the light. One pushed his hood back. It was a palace scribe with ink on his fingers. I bring a message, he said. His voice shook a little. Lord Varco says, return to your homes. The prince is dead. The throne is safe. If you come near the palace, you will be punished. Cory stood. He did not growl. He did not beat his chest. He simply looked at the men. Do you believe your own words? Nehemiah asked the scribe. The scribe swallowed. I believe what I must say, he whispered. Cory stepped forward and, very gently, took the scribe's ink-stained hands in his own big hands. You write truth when you can, Cory said. When you cannot, you write nothing. The scribe's eyes filled. He nodded. There are records I can bring, he said. Proof of extra taxes. Names of men who broke seals. Lists of grain that never reached the people. Bring them, Nehemiah said. We will copy them on large boards and read them in the market. We will not hide what is true. The scribe looked back at the other cloaked men. They looked at the ground. One kicked a stone. We were told to watch you, he said. We watched. We saw you return grain. We saw you treat the guards with honor. We saw the children laugh. He took off his cloak and laid it by the fire. I will not watch from the dark anymore, he said. I will help. The camp breathed out as one body. It is hard to fear men who take off their cloaks and sit by your fire. Before sleep, Nehemiah spoke to all. Tomorrow we go to 3 Palm Ward, she said. There is a small jail there where men who owed only a bowl of grain sit behind sticks. We will not break the door. We will count the debt. We will set a service that pays it. We will ask the headman to sign. We will leave the door able to close on those who truly harm. We will leave the place better. And then, someone asked. Then we go to the jetty market, Nehemiah said. Fishermen must pass a tax stone that is too heavy. They pay twice for the same river. We will lift the stone. We will mark the fair line. We will tie the mercy knot where all can see. The drum master tapped his drum once. And then we will eat, he said, and everyone laughed. Corey lay down, tired but steady. He looked at the thin red stain growing night by night. He did not fear it now. He respected it. It was a deadline that made his steps true. His last thought was a small prayer, let my strength hold, not hurt. The next day began with 3 Palm Ward. The jail was a low clay house with 3 palm trees planted in a line out front. 6 men sat inside on a dirt floor behind a door of sticks bound with rope. A young headman stood beside a table with a cracked bowl that held fines. His eyes were sharp but not cruel. He looked tired, like someone who had carried a bucket far. Nehemiah greeted him. We came to count, she said. Not to shame. The headman nodded. I count too, he said. But my numbers do not reach the palace. They get lost on the road. Corey squatted by the stick door and looked at the men. He asked each name. I am Kalu, said one. I owed 1 bowl and could not pay because my mother was sick. I sat 2 weeks. Another said, I am Ojo. I spoke too loud at the store when a guard pushed a child. I sat 5 days. The others told similar small stories, debt, anger, hunger, a hand grabbed when it should have been open. Nehemiah took the counting board and set it next to the cracked bowl. She put 6 lines for the 6 men. She placed small stones for each day owed by law, then removed stones for days already Saturday. Here is the truth, she said. Kalu, you owe 3 days of river work clearing weed for boats and 1 basket of stones for the road. Ojo, you owe 2 days of granary repair and 1 day teaching boys not to push. The rest of you, listen, service, not chains. The headman blew out a breath. Good, he said. I wanted this, but I had no one to stand with me if Arco sent soldiers. Corey stood and put his hand on the door of sticks. He did not pull hard. He lifted the rope hinge and set it aside. The door opened like a speech that had been waiting. Come, he said to the men. Kneel to the work. Not to me. The men knelt, each touching the ground with their hands. Nehemiah tied Haya's cords on their wrists, soft but strong. The headman signed the board with his mark. The drum master beat bind, release. The sound felt like a balance. They moved on to the jetty market. The river was wide there, teal and bright. Wooden boats rocked. Fish hung on lines like silver knives. A tack stone sat by the water, so heavy that 2 men had to lift it to weigh a net. It was a trick, the stone's bottom was chipped, so the boatman always paid more than fair. Corey squatted and touched the stone. He could lift it with 1 hand, but he did not show off. He called Tanu. Measure, he said. Tanu took the reed and marked a fair line on a board, then on the stone. He found a flat rock the right weight and set it by the tack stone. He drew a knot mark on the flat rock with chalk. Nehemiah wrote a clear note, old stone chipped. New flat stone set. This mark is the fair way. Signed by head of jetty and Mercy Knot Assembly. The jetty head, an old woman with a scar on her chin and eyes like a storm, stamped it with her thumb. The fishermen cheered. One lifted his net, weighted on the flat stone, and smiled at the number. This is right, he said. He pressed a small fish into Corey's hand. For you, he said. Corey did not eat fish, but he thanked the men and handed it to a child, who danced. As they turned to leave, a runner came, dusty and wild-eyed. Varco's men are closing the market gates in the city, he said. They say it is for safety. They say a beast army is coming. Corey looked at the sky. The sun had moved. The red line in the night would be bigger soon. Then we move too, he said. He lifted his hand and beat his chest once, slow. The drum master answered. The sound spread across the jetty like a wave. People began to gather their things with quick, sure hands. That night, back at camp, the air felt tight, like cloth stretched on a frame. People ate and spoke little. Children slept early. The freed workers stacked poles for stretchers. The hunters checked nets. Tanu drew a map in the dirt: river path, forest lane, goat track, the fast way to the palace ridge. Nemaya walked the line with her staff and put her hand on each person's shoulder, saying only 2 words to each: be steady. Cory stood on the small hill again and stared at the dark shape of the palace. He could almost see the sacred fig tree in his mind, its roots like walls, its leaves holding secrets. He remembered the smell of the green smoke. He remembered his room and the reed pen he had kept by his bed. He remembered his father's voice like a low drum. Nemaya came and stood beside him. They did not speak for a long time. At last, Cory said, "I am afraid of my own hands." Nemaya nodded. "Good," she said. "Only the proud are dangerous with power. The humble are careful." Cory let that truth sit in him. It fit well. He turned to the camp. "Tomorrow we go to the city," he said to all. His voice carried like good news. "We will not burn. We will not break doors we do not have to break. We will stand at the gate. We will speak. We will show the binding of paths. We will ask for kneel and work. We will keep the law." "What if they shut the gates?" someone called. "Then we stand outside till the whole city sees," Cory said. "We do not hide. We leave a mark that even a child can read." "What if Eru comes?" a child asked, eyes big. Nemaya lifted her staff. "We shine light," she said. "We do not make friends with smoke." The parrot flapped from branch to branch and shouted, "No break. Kneel." Everyone laughed, and the tightness in the air eased. They slept in small circles, heads inward, feet outward, like flowers. Cory lay with his face to the sky. He spoke to the red moon that had not yet risen. "I see you," he said. "I am coming." Far away, in the palace, Varko sat with his silver torque in his hands. He turned it over and over, like someone trying to turn time back. He called a captain. "Seal the market gates," he said. "Post men on the ridge. Light green lamps by the fig courtyard." He looked toward the windows and saw his face there, small and hard. He saw something else too, a little tremble at the corner of his mouth. He pressed his lips together until it stopped. Near midnight, Seer Amadi walked the wall with his drum. He did not look down at the city or up at the sky. He looked straight ahead, and his hands kept the beat that had become a promise for the whole land. Dum, dum, hold. Dum, dum, come. In part 2, things stop being gentle. We're going straight into the fight for Olam. You'll see what happens when Cory finally stands beside the forest priestess who has already dreamed his curse, when elephants answer his chest beat, when hunters, freed workers, and even broken guards choose a side, and when Varko turns the city into a trap, just as the Mercy-Not assemblies march straight toward the palace gates. When envy burns green and the red moon hangs over Olam, there won't be anywhere to hide. Will, strength without slaughter, still hold when smoke spirits whisper blood for blood? Will a cursed prince dare to spare the men who ruined his life?
If you want part 2, don't be quiet about it. Smash the like button, Tans. If we cross 100 likes, part 2 drops.